I've been called Barry on the podcast.
Oh,
I've
very
name
good.
changed.
That was quick.
I've only been away a couple of weeks. Yeah, someone is humming. That suddenly kicked in, didn't it? Where's that come from?
Darren, his laptop again.
It's a different laptop, but I mean, it might be the thing it's on. Might be the thing it's on top of. I can. It's on top of a.
Whatever it is, it came from your old house as well. Because you
There
used
we
to have
go.
it. Yeah,
Has
you
that
had
changed it?
Yeah.
Okay, so all I've done is elevate the laptop by putting it on top of a roll of gaffer tape.
Okay, you've got
So it's-
a noisy fan then.
Well, gaffer tape fixes everything. We
Yeah,
know
it
that.
does. But it's weird because it's sitting on top of a. It is sitting on top of a massive powered amplifier, but the amplifier is off. So I don't know why that would be.
Is it unplugged though?
No.
Yeah.
I could be inductive fun.
I'm sorry. Before we went live, I was just remembering a coffee advert from I think the 80s. I got it wrong. It was Red Mountain Coffee, not any of the brands I mentioned. Brook Bond Red Mountain, where a waiter in a restaurant goes into the back and goes blah, 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 to.
What year was that?
I'm not quite. Hang on, let me see if I.
Tell
I'm
me
sure I can find
Wikipedia
out.
hasn't even covered this.
It says from the 80s on the YouTube video. Classic 80s adverts. Someone on 1880s, says David on Discord. Download coffee machine sound effects from soundsnap.com.
Hang on. There's a hum. The hum's
Yeah,
back.
the hum's back.
I haven't done anything. I have no levers here.
Well, you
better.
you do because it seems to have stopped it again.
There we go.
I mean,
It's beautiful. You could sell that as an audio recording now.
I moved my
4:33.
yes. I thought you were saying it's how
4:33.
we have till we go live. But
For
no,
those who
it's-
have had an educated past, John Cage. It's a piece
Sorry,
of music,
what,
4
from-
minutes 33 long. And there's
from Ali
nothing.
McBeal.
You sit at the piano and don't do anything for 4 minutes 33 seconds.
Yeah.
Fair, I can
Quite
do
a
that for 10.
profoundly interesting piece of music.
Did that for my grade 3. 20 seconds.
We have a thing here called the Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival where it's mainly people playing bike pumps and smashing litter bins and things like that. But there's actually a PC Pro reader that when he's up to view it, he pops in the shop. Anyway, they often do that bit of Cage and to great fanfare, and people literally go and see him bloke do nothing.
Lee, I hate to cut across the Huddersfield Music Fair cats, but we've got a podcast to go.
Tickets now available.
Ready? Good afternoon and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is Thursday, the 15th of January, 2026 of all people, of all years. And I'm Barry Collins of all people. And with me today, I've got Lee Grant.
It's a strong start for the year,
It
isn't it?
is, yeah. We're just warming up. It's just the first one back. Takes a little bit of a while to get back into the groove. Anyway, how are you, Lee?
I'm very well. Happy New Year to everyone. Apparently it's too late to say that, but I'm saying it anyway.
Got Darren Graham-Smith.
Hello there.
And fresh from his 7-day residency in Las Vegas, John Honeyball.
So this is actually the second one of the year, just to be ultra pedantic.
Yes. He just didn't bother listening, John, clearly.
You missed a classic. It was a cracker.
Okay, well, something that's not exactly cracking is X's social media outputs. So let's dive into that, Darren.
Yeah, so this has been all over the news. I'm sure most of you have already seen it. That it was revealed. I'm not quite sure if this is a new thing or if it just exploded this in the past week. That the Grok AI engine that's built into X, formerly known as Twitter, will allow or would allow users to upload pictures and digitally alter them so that the subjects were wearing bikinis, underwear, etc., etc. This has caused a bit of a ruckus. Ofcom quite quickly stepped in and pointed out that this qualified as creating non-consensual intimate images, which are not permitted in the UK. And it's launched an investigation. If found to have broken the law, X could have been fined 10% of its worldwide revenue, or 18 million pounds, whichever is greater. I mean, Elon Musk, throws 18 million pounds away rather than stooping to pick it up. But never mind. And Keir Starmer warned that if X didn't get a grip and stop, doing this shoddy stuff, it could lose the right to self-regulate. Ofcom does have the power to block services that don't comply with its rulings. However, it may be that things are calming down because just this morning, Elon Musk announced that Grok would no longer allow you to edit photos of real people to show them in revealing clothing in jurisdictions where that's illegal. So the most minor concession possible, but nevertheless, it looks like they've kind of taken half a step back, and probably based on, I think I saw this morning that Keir Starmer said he welcomed this. That's probably going to be enough to get them out of hot water for now. But still, it's cheeky AF, right?
Yeah, I mean that's putting it very mildly. There was some reports this morning that the measures they put in overnight aren't really working, that they're very easy to get around, and that it seems what they're doing is just hiding those images rather than stop them being generated in the first place. So it looks like someone's rushing out to try and patch this and hasn't done a brilliant job of it. I mean, where to start with this one, John? What do you make of it all?
Well, there's kind of a sort of the fascinating inevitability of a slow car crash about this, isn't there? In that it was entirely predictable. It was going to happen. Once you start getting these generative AI tools that can create things on and modify images on the basis of a quite straightforward little textual prompt, take this image and do this with it, and then the engines can go do that. You have moved well away from the olden days of requiring serious skills in the likes of Photoshop or whatever to do this. I mean, what they're doing is basically nothing new compared to what you've been able to do in a picture editor for 30 years. The difference is that back then to do this took real skills, real software, real knowledge, and quite a lot of time. Whereas now you can take an image, and especially on X, and say, take this image and do this to it, and within a few seconds it's done it for you. And any old idiot can have that capability available to them to do anything they like with. So it's not that the thing is new, it's that the skill set required to do it and the speed is orders of magnitude easier, faster, cheaper, etc. than it has ever been. And therefore, as you would expect, everybody piles in and has a go. And unfortunately, this has led to a whole riot of bad behaviour. You can make the case, and I will only say it is that far because I don't agree with it, but you could make the case that people who are out in the public platform are used to bad photographs of them being published, a frame out of a video where they're yawning or whatever. This is a whole different level to that, and it takes on an entirely different level when it could potentially be bullying between school kids and that kind of space. That takes on a whole different nasty turn. The problem that we really face here is, firstly, it was entirely predictable that this would happen on the basis of what these engines can now do. And secondly, we have platforms out there who have been designed to allow you to do anything and then try and put some sort of filter in the way to stop the most egregious and harmful and worst excesses, which is clearly what's going to be happening here, backed by essentially American corporations who really don't give a damn about our laws or whatever, and you end up with this unholy mess. So I don't know. I think we need to really start, and maybe this is the start of the discussion about what kind of internet, what kind of services do we really want, do we really want to do? Should we be looking for a Internet V2 where we have better control of this stuff, better not regulation isn't quite a word, but just some common decency and humanity, and how that happens, because at the moment things are only going to get worse.
Lee?
There's a couple of things that really annoy me about this. I just take a point of Darian's, which is that the fine. If you sort of extrapolate that out to what X sort of is predicted to earn in 2025, it just turnover. This fine would be 0.83% of their revenue. So where is the retribution here? Where's the MD in court? If we change the medium, and imagine that in the next issue of PC Pro, Tim prints AI-generated images of Nicole or Dick Pounton in their birthday suits, provocatively draped over a few servers. Would being fined 0.83 of turnover really be sufficient?
Well, yeah. Just on that though, sorry to interrupt, but there's more than a fine is punishable for the creation of images. In that sense, I mean, that's an imprisonable offence in terms of certainly the creation of those types of images, especially of children. So. I mean, I'll leave it there, but it's not. I think to say it was just to be dealt with a fine is perhaps a little misleading. But sorry, carry on.
No, but I think that's the point. The fine is so pathetic these days compared to the money that these companies have. It's absolutely meaningless. It becomes down to a business cost. And essentially, what has happened today is they've just whatever they've done, they've just walked away from. Everyone goes, okay, well, you promised not to do it again. That's good enough for us. And there's victims on the end of this stuff who they'll never get their, that will never be turned around, and you get Liz Kendall saying the Online Safety Act gives them the power to sort of block certain services. And we never do. We just let these idiots just carry on, just absolutely rodding us over. Malaysia and Indonesia blocked Grok because of this. They just did it, and that was sorted out quite quick. And we just, if Ofcom decides to use their powers to do these things, and they never damn do. I mean, it was good that the government sort of gave them a kick up the bum, so they sorted this out in a week or so, rather than, the 8 years it normally takes. But, it's just, nothing ever changes.
So in terms of, and I'll come back to you, John, the outcome here, I mean, are we now at the stage where we're proposing a ban on X and Grok? Do you think that's where we have to go?
If you're doing this sort of stuff, and there's an argument about whether you're not turning it off yesterday, cull it. That would be my answer. You might get their attention rather than finding them 50p.
John,
it's like library fines.
A couple of points here. I totally agree with you, Lee. The first point I wanted to raise was, the governments and the regulators have allowed companies like Facebook for years to do their own internal filtering and what's the word I'm looking for? Content moderation. And every time something nasty happens, whether it's self-harm in children or suicide groups or whatever it is, the company is allowed to turn around and say, we've learned from that. We've now put in place better solutions. It won't happen again. And of course, in a few weeks' time, months' time, whatever, something else pops up, and then they turn around and say, we have adjusted our algorithm. The other thing I would point out is I think there's very interesting and contrasting parallel to be made here to the CE mark and, for example, electrical safety. If you have a product that fails CE mark in Europe, whether it be for electrical safety or whatever, and the manufacturer gets informed, they have this is from memory. I haven't done this for a while, like 20 odd years or so, and there's a tale to be told behind this, which will require multiple pints of beer. But they have 24 hours to take it off sale across all of Europe. For an electrical safety failure. Why are we not treating the likes of Grok, etc., in the same way? You have 24 hours to take this off. All of Europe, bang, no discussion. Forget the fine. The fines are relevant. Just you have to take it off public availability within a very small time frame. Now, 24 hours is extraordinarily tight if you've got hundreds of shops with your products selling your physical kettle or whatever it might be, but that is still the law. Why do we not have an equivalence of that, end of the working day, you get cut off. You must stop transmitting your, for want of a better term, filth into the public space. Actually, I just saw a comment there. Null Modem on our Discord chat says CA compliance also requires a named individual in the company to sign off and be responsible. Absolutely right, Null Modem. And there you will find on the compliance documents for electrical safety and so forth for a product for their CE mark, there is a named person who has to sign this. Why do we not have that kind of responsibility requirement for online services?
Darren?
Well, I mean, why do we not have lots of things? I think it's just because the speed at which the technology moves. It's very difficult to, it's one of those things where it takes 5 seconds to smash something and an awful lot longer to draft legislation to order it to be rebuilt. I did just want to throw in something a little bit tangential, but it was what we were talking about earlier. There is, although I think Elon Musk is basically a kind of bad faith kind of guy, I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. There is a genuine legal question hanging over whether asking for a picture of someone in a bikini constitutes what in British law is covered by the Sexual Offences Act or the Online Safety Act, because a bikini is outdoor wear. And I'm not saying, it's definitely all fine and kosher. I'm not saying people aren't doing it for titillating purposes, but I think we haven't yet had a test case which actually establishes for sure that putting someone in what you could call sportswear is a clear violation of the Act.
The issue, I mean, whether we decide to, well, we decide, it's within our gift, but I guess the biggest issue is in terms of creating laws that potentially allow you to ban social media firms in the way you suggest, is that you're relying on the government acting in good faith. And as we've seen perhaps in other countries, that those tools could then be used later for governments not acting in such good faith. And as distasteful as I find X and the whole thing's doing Musk, I am slightly worried about creating systems that could be abused by later governments when it comes to social media and stuff. But I'm not sure we're on the list of priorities that sits right now.
Not yet.
Yeah. There was also, I noticed on the Today Show this morning, the government again floating this idea, it seems, of banning under 16s from using social media. Would we at that have universal approval from our panel members?
We talked about this when Australia did it. I don't know if you were on that one, Barry, but I think in general we were quite pro the idea.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just, as with all the things that we're about to get into a story later about age verification, it is very complicated to pull off.
I think the Australian, and I think another country has done it as well. I can't remember which one, but I think these are going to be very interesting social experiments to watch over the next 6 months to 12 months to see what actually happens, what the pushback and views are of the of the children in those countries and the parents, and what kind of research is done to see how and if they're doing their best to get around these blocks, whether they're VPN tunnels or Tor browsers or whatever. So I think they're setting up a very interesting set of test data, which I think we should be keeping a close eye on.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. And this is with you, John, and Google and Apple have teamed up this week.
Yes. Well, we have to remember that that Google and Apple have been in bed right since the first days of the iPhone, of course, because Google pays Apple an inordinately large amount of money, into the tens of billions of dollars a year, to make Google the default search engine on the iPhone and Apple platforms. But so this is sort of like the next, another move in that kind of direction. And it's kind of an announcement because they haven't really announced it. There is kind of a little tiny announcement they've done something, but there's no real detail about what's happened and so forth. But going around the various people on the internet who claim to have inside knowledge, what appears to have happened is that Apple has done a deal with Google for what appears to be about $1 billion a year, which sounds like an awful lot of chocolate hobnobs, but in the context of the reputed 20-odd billion or so that Google gives Apple, it's kind of like a little tiny refund. And what appears to be done is that the latest big Gemini engine, AI engine from Google is being supplied to Apple for Apple to run. It would appear on their own custom hardware within Apple's cloud compute platform. And it is claimed that Google will have no access to any information that Apple users use against that model. So basically, it's a supply only deal of this model, of this custom model to Apple. Now, Apple has been building Blade servers in a factory they got in Texas, I believe, and they've been building out their private compute platform server side for quite some time now. But they're very, very, very secretive about it. In fact, we don't even really know what CPU is being used in this, and it may even be a completely custom version of an MCPU with lots and lots of additional bits on the chip for doing this kind of work, and it certainly would not be beyond Apple capabilities to do that. But what appears to be happening here is that the deal is being done so that the enhanced Siri that's coming and so forth will still try and run against local models on your device. If that can't be answered on your local device, it can then send the query up to Apple's cloud compute servers. And there's some very interesting papers on the Apple site about how they can do this with it's either homomorphic or homotopic encryption, which basically means that the Apple cloud servers can't decrypt what the question is, but they can answer it. Go read the papers. And they've been...
That's your job.
Damn it. I knew there was something I'd missed this morning. No, I have read the papers, I must confess. And they've been working on this for some years. The problem is they have been built... Apple apparently is building its own sort of trillion node LLM engine, but it's not ready yet. So to plug the gap, they're buying in Google's. Now that's about as far as anybody has said anything, and Apple basically said, after careful evaluation, we've determined that Google's technology provides the most capable foundation for Apple Foundation models, and we're excited about the innovative new experiences it will unlock for our users. That's kind of about it. We will get some more information, I'm sure, moving forward, especially, I guess, at the WWDC Developers Conference when it comes around in June. But what I think is interesting about this is, firstly, that Google was prepared to do a deal. And if you think about it now, if you look at the Apple platform and the Android platform, where, of course, Google is preeminent on AI stuff, they've kind of sewn it up. And you remember a few months ago, there was this sort of red flag event for OpenAI, where they said, the ceiling's falling in, we've got to do stuff. The rumors are that at that point, a deal was basically falling apart between Apple and OpenAI. Now, OpenAI has been a supplier of technology onto the Apple platform for a while, but it would appear that is coming to somewhat of an end. And this news is going to be very interesting to see what it does over the next months to OpenAI's financial status and share price and so forth. Because if it looks like it's being pushed into deeply into second place, that's not going to help the warm, cuddly feeling it needs from the investors who are stumping up, the thick end of $1 trillion for them to build data centers and so forth to run OpenAI's models. And that one pundit who, I kind of respect his opinion, has said basically the outcome now is that OpenAI's financial model implodes over the next 12 months, and Microsoft basically picks up the pieces because it has the rights to most of it anyway, should it need to have it. And that OpenAI basically gets subsumed into Microsoft as the other player out there alongside Google. But, we live in interesting times. So how well this will work, we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Lee, any input from you?
As John said, I read the statement. There's not a lot there. John has filled it in beautifully. It is literally just wait and see. But just that last point about OpenAI, there's just little reports you read here and there that it is getting very, very twitchy in there. And you look at, I've been doing some Microsoft training recently with obviously with their Copilot stuff, and the amazing ways they are finding to ram OpenAI into Copilot into everything, which obviously is backed by OpenAI. So there was a smell of desperation in the air from that camp. So it'll be interesting to see how Google and Apple handle this. And I think you have to sort of take it that this is actually a big sort of hat tip to Google. If Apple is prepared to sort of stand up and say, actually, we've had a look at everything, we think you're the best, credit to Google.
And also, if I just interrupt there, let's look at the interesting point of view. $1 billion a year sounds like a lot of money, and frankly, it's down in the noise for a company like Apple. And they have now got access to arguably the best model on the planet. You can argue that about the latest Gemini, on their own hardware, on their own terms, respecting their users' privacy. They say, this is of course to be proven. And they haven't had to pay all the infrastructure cost, all the training cost. Some have mooted that building this 1.2 trillion node model will have cost Google the thick end of 500 million in compute power anyway. So this really is a bargain. And all those people who were sitting around saying Apple's being really stupid and has dropped the ball and so forth may now actually be looking at this saying, hold on, they've got the best, arguably the best on the market now for a bargain price on the terms that they want to do it. Wasn't that a wise position to take, just to sit out and wait?
Well, maybe, but I mean, this does have the whiff of trial account to it. That if this picks up and Google does become the sort of de facto AI supplier for Apple devices, I imagine that contract will increase in cost in the years to come. But Darren, have you got anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it, how this announcement, like Apple teams up with Google, is in a way really an announcement about OpenAI. I do hear that everyone's been saying that Gemini has been getting better and better, and it is as I think John mentioned, arguably the market leader at this point. The only thing I find myself wondering is whether whether to get to this point, to have the ability to grow it and to get it out there and to keep it running. From when it was, just a little upstart called Bard. I wonder if Google had that enormous advantage of already being such a massive presence and having, the Android platform to push it out on and integrate it with, which OpenAI didn't have. And what I'm basically saying is, I feel like there's an element here of maybe OpenAI is losing not because its product was particularly worse at any point. Arguably, it was the company that really popularized desktop consumer AI, but just because Google did a better job of leveraging an existing, semi-monopoly.
Which is what Google has done, effectively.
Okay, and also this week, John, Apple's announced a new set of software subscriptions.
Yeah, Apple, of course, is very big in its, media creator platform, as you can imagine, with Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, which are very high-end products. You may prefer DaVinci or whatever, but Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro are very powerful tools. And they've only been available on the main Mac platform up till now as a purchase for around a couple of $100, but they are lifetime licenses, and I bought both of them, I can't remember, well more than a decade ago, and been happily upgrading ever since. When they launched Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro onto the iPad, then they turned it into a subscription model. Not very much, but into a subscription model. And you'll remember it was thick end of a year ago when Apple bought Pixelmator Pro, which is a very good high-end image editing tool. And then the obvious question was, how was Apple going to launch Pixelmator Pro into the Apple family? Well, what they've announced is something called Apple Creator Studio. And this is available. You can buy still. You can buy full licenses if you wish. But they're pushing this out as a subscription. And in this subscription, monthly subscription, you get Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Pixelmator Pro. You get Keynote Pages and Numbers, which are the desktop sort of Office-like apps, but in enhanced and AI-driven versions. You also get Motion Compressor and MainStage, which are high-end tools that come with Final Cut Pro. Now, what's the cost of this? So this is an awfully powerful set of tools here. And the cost here is £12.99 a month for the whole thing. And it's not just for you, it's also for 5 or 6 other members of your family if you do share to family. So it's kind of akin, if you like, to the rather wonderful Microsoft Office for Home platform, which is what, 8 or 10 quid or something a month. And you get all of Office for members of your family and OneDrive and so forth. So you can think of it in those kind of terms. And rather than being the sort of the Office tools kind of bundle, this is like the seriously high-end graphics, video, audio tools. The interesting thing to watch here, of course, is going to be how this compares to your Adobe license at your 40, 50, 60 quid a month. Now, I am not going to sit here and say if you are a Photoshop wizard and you need Photoshop, then Pixelmator Pro is what you will immediately jump to, because it's more complicated than that. We know that for pro users. And if you are an Adobe Premiere Pro monster, then you're probably not going to have jumped ship to Final Cut Pro. You would have done this years ago if you were going to do it. But nevertheless, this pricing, I think, is an interesting bundle, especially with the family part for free built in effectively. Of course, it's absolutely of no interest to you at all if you're on Windows. This is for Mac, but this ships in 28th of January, so a couple of weeks time.
That sort of family pricing is interesting because this isn't consumer software. This isn't really. I know they're bundling Keynote and Pages and whatever in there, but Final Cut Pro and even Pixelmator to some extent aren't really your average consumer apps. So
I mean, you could argue Logic Pro is the big brother of GarageBand, if you like, and it'll import the files and move them out. But no, these are very serious, very heavyweight pieces of software. These are not lightweight pieces of nonsense. And there's also like a 1 or 3 month free trial. You can try it out as well for nothing. So these are, and Compressor and Mainstage and stuff. These are tools that most people don't know or even heard of, simply because they are pro tools for doing very serious TV film grade work. So this pricing point, I think, is a real shot across the bow across Adobe, and clearly Apple has been waiting until they had the pixel editing tool in Pixelmator Pro ready to add into the bundle and wrap it up and shove it out the door.
Yeah, it just seems a very curious mix of consumer kind of licensing with professional grade tools. But anyway, Darren, anything to add before we move on?
I mean, I hate subscriptions, but if this puts pressure on Adobe, then good. As long as we retain the ability to buy Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro, etc., then no hit, no foul. I'm just a bit concerned about. I believe at the moment, if you bought Logic Pro, 10 years ago, you're still getting updates and upgrades to new versions. I just ask myself whether that's going to continue forever when Apple has a competing revenue stream for as Adobe does. Yep. Sorry, John.
What they have said is that they are adding in a whole bunch of new stuff and AI added capabilities and so forth coming into Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Pixelmator Pro, etc. You won't get those if you're on the already purchased license, because that will only come as part of the rolling bit. But in real, frankly, to be honest, I think to myself, I paid whatever it is, $299 for Final Cut Pro, probably 14, 15 years ago. I think I've got value out of it now. I'm not feeling screwed over by the thought that I need to go onto a subscription. I can sit there with my existing perpetual license if I want to. If there's value there for the other bits, I will start paying the subscription. I don't think I'm being diddled.
No, and I don't feel too bad about paying for AI add-ons, because we all know that those are hella expensive, and that is basically a service rather than a product. But still, the two-tier thing makes me a little bit uneasy. That's my response.
Lee, any thoughts before we shuffle along?
Just very quickly, I think this is a nice little deal. I've always been impressed by Apple's sort of out-of-the-box experience. I found it much richer than Microsoft. Apple gives you. I'm talking on a MacBook, not necessarily on iPads, but probably on iPad as well. You get like an Office suite as a video editor, GarageBand and stuff like that. And on Windows you get Notepad, and even Linux distros come with Libra. So it's as a basic thing, Apple's I think has always been slightly ahead on its native apps in this sort of sphere. And these all look pretty good, and I don't think the pricing is too well, it's not extravagant at all if you're in the pro market, but there's even a student license, so you can do this 30 quid a year, which I think that is very curious because you look at the kids today, they're all making videos on various apps that they've downloaded from God knows where, and God knows where the data's going and stuff like that. So what you've got an opportunity here is to actually have a native app bolted to the dedicated hardware for it to work well at a decent price. Yeah, there's a lot to love.
Okay, Nick. Well, let's shuffle along, and we're back to kids and underage activity again, Lee.
Yeah, strap in. This one goes on a bit. This is a story about age verification, which I mentioned earlier. It's actually to do with Roblox. And the headline is that the system that they've implemented, which is facial recognition used to sort of work out the ages of the people using it, hasn't landed that well with their users. Now, just before I dig into this, I'm just going to take 30 seconds to clarify what Roblox is, because although it's a well-known name, many people still think it's a single game that kids plays, which is sort of right. But Roblox is actually a gaming platform where anyone can play lots of different games. And when I say lots, the numbers I pulled yesterday state there are around 400 million different Roblox experiences to choose. Yeah, it's serious numbers here. Now, an experience can be a game, a hangout, a concert, an education space, social hub. So basically anywhere where a player can interact and log in. So just give you a couple of numbers. Q3 2025, Roblox reported a global player base of about 151 million users. And they estimate that 88 billion hours were spent on the platform. Probably most of those for my own children, I think. So we're talking big numbers. Also in 2025, Roblox smashed its own record, 45 million players online at the same time. And in one single game, Grow a Garden, there was over 25 million concurrent.
Lee, it looks like we've got...
This is a big sort of online gaming world, but deal in the... arseholes.
Edit.
We all have that.
Apologies for if you may have heard some inopportune language from our friend Lee. It looks like he's having connection problems. We will hopefully get him back.
It was the window cleaner. I'm sorry. Am I here? Am I gone?
You're here. Do you want to restart this section?
You're very fuzzy.
Where did I drop out?
Do you want to try rejoining, Lee? Because you're really in and out. Yeah.
Well, bye all.
Play some interlude music, somebody.
I'm hearing John's concerto for keyboard in mechanical.
Apologies if you're listening live. We will resume
Must be
programming
cold
as soon as
up
possible.
north, I think,
Yeah.
It's a bit frozen up north.
Rain got into his Wi-Fi.
Snow. I was walking around in a t-shirt last week, but apparently you had snow. So
Yeah, we had snow. It was amazing. We had so school was off on Monday last week, and that was the one day we had snow. So everyone was out and enjoying it. And next day, back to the grind.
Someone picked up the telephone upstairs, says James London. Yeah.
Yes.
Remember those days?
Oh, I remember those days. Yes. Are you old enough to remember needing to make a phone call to like New York, and you actually had to book it with the international operator?
Not quite, but
I remember that.
I'm aware of its work. Right. Are you back, Mr. Grant, in full
I am.
Technicolor? Good.
In an unrelated technical note, we have a new router in. It's a Ubiquiti Dream Pro something. And I've had nothing but hassle with it. But anyway,
Why?
yeah, but that's for another day. Where did we get to, Darren? Are you able to splice anything in, or shall I
I
just start?
can, but I don't now remember exactly
Well,
what.
if I were you, I'd pick up from the point where you're explaining what Roblox is, and then it should be fairly easy.
Right, okay, thank God this is scripted. Right, okay, here we go. Forget what you've just heard. So before I dig in, I'm going to take a few seconds just to clarify what Roblox is, because, like I say, it's a well-known name. Many people think it's just one single game that kids play, but it isn't. It's a gaming platform where anyone can basically play lots of different games. And the numbers I pulled yesterday state that around 400 million different Roblox experiences. Can be a concert and education page. There's loads of different ways. It's just a way for you to log in and interact. So it's a big thing. Just a couple of numbers. Q3 2025, Roblox reported a global player base of 151 million, 88.7 billion hours spent on the platform. And, like I say, these are big numbers. And in 2025, it smashed its own record, recording over 45 million players online at the same time. And in one single game, Grow a Garden, which my kids reliably tell me now is not very popular, there was over 25 million concurrent players. So I just want to give you an idea of the scale of the platform we're talking about here. Because when we finally now get to the story, it's the old problem of how do large platforms keep their players safe, which, Roblox is mainly a collaborative gaming platform, and it's the in-game chat function which is really under the spotlight at the moment. So Roblox have rolled out an AI-powered age verification system which scans the users' faces to predict their age. Roblox then segments users into different age bands, 9 to 12, 13 to 15, 16 to 17, 18 to 20, 21 plus. And this loosely aligns to age ratings in certain games. It doesn't stop you. So if you're identified as 12 years old, it doesn't stop you playing different age rating games. That's a different setting. This is purely for the in-game chat function. It's not mandatory, but if you don't go through this system, the chat is disabled in the games. And as my kids point out, as they're hollering to their mates while playing, chat is a vital element of playing these games. So it's not a nice add-on. It's often, with a lot of the popular games, it's quite crucial to the gameplay because it's designed to be that way. Now, as you can probably guess, the AI system hasn't worked for everyone. Wired has reported various users being shoved into the wrong categories, including a 23-year-old who was identified as a 16-year-old, and he was saying, basically, I just don't want to be chatting with kids. eBay is working very hard to try and remove sellers of age-verified Roblox accounts, and socials have plenty of videos of how to fool age recognition, including a very nice one on X, where there's a little boy who's basically drawn on his face with marker pen to do wrinkles and stubble, and the system says he's 21. Who knows if that's even true, but it is quite funny. It is all a bit messy, and this morning I asked my own kids, 2 fervent Roblox players, what they thought of the age verification system. One said it was okay, and the other said, and this is a direct quote, it was ass, which probably says more about my parenting skills than anything else. What they're finding is that many of their peers don't want to verify because they don't want their face online, which I find is really interesting and also quite encouraging that many sort of young kids are really sort of thinking about the security implications about where this data is going. Roblox is using a third party to do this and making it very clear that they're not storing information and all that usual stuff.
Yeah, so just to be clear, Leon, on this, so this is one of those like services like Yachty, which we covered in PC Pro a while back, that it takes an image of your face using a webcam and then basically guesstimates how old you are. There's no more to it than that, right?
It's actually a video it takes. So
Right.
you look at the camera and you move your head left, right, and centre, and then, it whizzes around and says, hey, you're 45, or whatever it does. But yeah, it's essentially that. And once... and with Roblox, and I won't get too much into this, there is parental controls built in Roblox, but this is on top of that. And it is an amazingly complicated, as a parent, it's an amazing complicated system to administer. We could fill a whole podcast on that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Barry. It is that system. You look at the camera, it takes a photo, and it decides what you are. And you can appeal, and Roblox have said they will re-verify if they suspect things. But when you're talking about this volume of users, this sort of system is always going to have sort of problems. But why this has become important, this is all part of a suite of measures that Roblox has rolled out basically to make the platform, in its own words, safer. Because in the US at the moment, it's currently under the threat of a few lawsuits, which allege that the company basically fails to protect its users. And now I've pulled one quote from Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman, who labelled Roblox the website of choice for child predators. Now, it accuses it basically of prioritising profits over child safety, and the recently disbanded Hindenburg Research Group published a report, I think last year, called Roblox Inflated Key Metrics for Wall Street and a Paedophile Hellscape for Kids. Now, that details allegations of grooming gangs and child abuse networks operating on the platform, and multiple reports from insiders claiming that Roblox has a growth or cost mentality, highlighting multiple cases of misleading or lying to investors about key metrics, and basically open its platform to dangerous predators and illicit content unsuitable for children. And just for the sake of Barry's blood pressure and the lawyers, these are all allegations which Roblox is currently denying in court.
Yeah, there was a very good interview about 3 or 4 months ago with, it was on a podcast, a Decoder podcast, I think, where Roblox's CEO was brought in and asked some pretty searching questions about their age verification, and he basically just stropped off and refused to answer them after a while.
In fact, yeah, you are right. It was actually the Hard Fork podcast. You've read my mind. That's where I was going because, as Barry said, it was back in November. David Bazuki went into the New York Times' Hard Fork podcast to talk about the age verification process, and the opening question was, "How do you think of the problem of predators on Roblox?" And before I tell you what he said, remember this is the CEO of a company. You know, he'll be surrounded by an army of PR peeps. You know, he will have been briefed. Anyway, his response was, we think of it not necessarily just as a problem, but as an opportunity as well. So that's your starter for 10, Predator Opportunity. And as Barry said, it's a really good listen. I encourage you to go and seek it out because, and this is only my humble opinion and not that of PC Pros, it is a certified Andrew Mountbatten Windsor level car crash interview. It really is not good. So briefly, AI verification is in. Multiple large games are reporting that chat activity has been slashed. This is causing a problem because these games are now introducing their own pseudo chat systems, which bypass all the controls, which sort of makes things worse and potentially less safe. So there you go.
Okay, gentlemen, anything to add before we shuffle along? No, I get shakes of head. Lee's covered it so comprehensively. He's silenced John and Darian. So let's move on and quickly move on to Google's AI inbox. And we talked about Google and Apple pairing up for AI earlier. This is very much Google on itself, and this is changes that have been announced to Gmail. So in the coming months, we're going to see Google introduce what it's now called its AI inbox, and this is only for customers who pay for their premium AI features in Google. But it's basically splits your Gmail inbox into two halves. The top half is like a sort of to-do list of stuff that Google's gone through your Gmail. The AI's decided these are the emails you need to deal with today. This is the important stuff. Someone requesting a payment, for example, or a subscription running out. This is the stuff you've got to deal with, and it lists in sort of just bullet point form. These are the stuff you've got to deal with. The bottom half is like a sort of summarized catch up of stuff in your inbox since you last looked. So, as you know already, if you some Gmail users would have seen the sort of Gmail previews at the top of threaded messages, where it condenses long threaded chains and the contents of those emails. It's sort of doing those on an inbox level now. So it will say, I don't know, you've got a newsletter from The Verge and your dog food subscription runs out on Tuesday and whatever. So it's all, instead of looking at your inbox in a line by line, email by email chronological order, it's trying to give you an AI view of what's important and what's not. And I guess, I did check my email shortly before my comment before I started the show. I get on average 450 emails a day. So it's to wade through all that lot and have an AI tool to be picking out what's useful and what's not could be quite handy, I guess. But what's your feelings on that, gentlemen? Darian?
Yeah, I mean, Google's AI can be helpful, but my overriding experience of it is that it's much too eager, and it really is that kind of solution looking for a problem. I would have to trial this, but I feel that the existing categories that I have in my Gmail, updates, social, etc., do everything I need, and I'm not at all persuaded. But as I say, it's something I'll try.
John?
Confess, I'm completely old school. I read my inbox in real time and keep on top of it and reply to stuff and categorize it. I flag things that I know I need to come back to the next day or so, pay an invoice and stuff like that if I'm not in a position to be able to make a bank transfer at that moment in time. I've tried things like the capabilities built into Outlook, which of course are going to be way more limited than what is being proposed here for cloud-side Gmail AI stuff. And I confess I've found them, as someone said, being a bit over-eager, and sorting out the mess takes more time than I saved by it trying to do its categorization in the first place. Now, of course, you've got your email in Gmail, you're on the Google platform, you've handed everything over to them to process on your behalf. You've kind of crossed that bridge already. Now the question will be is, what is the value proposition in terms of really sorting stuff out. Where things will get really quite scary is there are some software out there, and some of it was being shown in at CES last week, of yes, of course you have an inbox, and yes, of course you have a Twitter account and so forth. Our tool will take over all of those and run them for you, and will generate emails from you, will answer emails for you, and so forth, to which my immediate reaction is run away. But maybe I'm just being an old fogey here, and I would like to see, because anything less than 100% accuracy is a real problem for me. I don't want. I'm sure Lee does not want an inbox that's automatically replying to sales inquiries. I certainly don't want complicated technical responses being generated, being sent off to my clients. So removing the rubbish, yes, but we've had quite intelligent spam filters for a really long time. I mean, there was really a good one that bolted into Microsoft Exchange Server some 20 years ago, and it was based upon crowded data. So again, we'll have to wait and see how well it works.
Yeah, I'd argue it's not the spam it's getting rid of. It's the sort of layer above that. It's the messages you get, the hundreds of messages a day I get from stuff that isn't really interesting, but it's not spam in the sense it's not
no.
someone trying to sell me penis enlargements or whatever.
This is coming up the stack of importance of stuff on your inbox.
Yeah.
And of course, I have spam moved out to spam folder automatically. I don't worry about that. I occasionally go and view what's in there just in case.
Yeah. Okay, Lee, before we move on.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that someone is trying to do something with email. I absolutely get what you're saying, Barry. As someone else that also gets a phenomenal amount of email overnight, frankly, anything that can help with that. But I'm afraid I am joining John in the Twilight Rest Home alongside, and say, if I may paraphrase Ford Prefect, Google old mate, I trust you about as far as I could comfortably spit out a rat. So no.
What's happened to you today, Lee? You've come back all spiky since New Year. Okay.
You write that Roblox story and come out cheerful.
Let's go to Nibs. Darian.
Yeah, researchers at Checkpoint have discovered a never-before-seen Linux malware platform. It's the most advanced one, I think, possibly ever discovered. It uses a modular system, so remote people can install new bits and bobs remotely, take over your Linux computer, or take control of your Linux computer and monitor it over the long term. It looks like it came from China. There's no information been made available as to exactly how it came to Checkpoint. They said it was discovered in some virus samples uploaded to VirusTotal, but who uploaded them and why and from where hasn't been made public as far as I know. But also they have said that there's been no confirmed infections, because obviously getting this stuff onto a Linux system is half of the battle. So don't panic just yet. Just be aware that if someone can get onto your server or your workstation or whatever, they could compromise it in a whole new way.
There's a new feature in Wordly.
Yeah, brace yourselves. This one's a bit niche, but if it helps a few of you, I'll certainly sleep easier. Microsoft has improved the way that Word handles hyperlinks, making things just a bit faster. So if you want to make a word into in a document into a link on a website, copy the link, select the word, and paste. And your chosen word will now become a link. And personally, I think this could change the world. But if you write docs with lots of links, this could save a lot of clicking around in menus. Currently available on Windows from build, here we go, 19530.20006, and Mac from 251.20915, and the current release of Word for the Web, which is apparently what Microsoft is now calling their online version of Word. I do say apparently, because I can get it to work on Windows, but I can't get it to work on Mac yet. But anyway, it's there, and if you use that sort of thing, good on you.
Finally, one's with you, John.
Yes, those of us who have been around following this industry for more than 5 minutes, of course, will be devotees of the Dilbert cartoons over the last, 20, 25 years. The wry humour, the perception, and so forth has been something that's given much thought and much joy to all of us for many years. The cartoonist Scott Adams behind it died a couple of days ago, which of course is sad news. He had somewhat of a problem a couple of years ago. He got into a lot of hot water by some, shall we say, intemperate and unwelcome comments, racist comments that he made, and he got his comic strip pulled by the national newspapers. But nevertheless, that's all I know about him from that point of view. But certainly, I have really enjoyed his Dilbert cartoons for many years, and obviously this is the end of that line.
Okie doke. Hardware time, and it is with you, Mr. Honeyball.
Yes, well, this is one of those lovely sort of niche things. You're not going to all want it. It's not applicable to everybody, and that's fine. But it is actually a really useful tool, and I used it last week in Las Vegas. It's the new Unified Travel Router. It's a tiny little thing. It's about not even the size of a pack of cards. What is it? Well, it's USB-C powered. It is a router, a Wi-Fi base, and a Wi-Fi client, and it also has Ethernet ports on it as well, on this little spring thing here, which you can have one for the WAN side and one for the LAN side, so you can hardwire something into it. So what do you do with this, and what's the scenario for this? And here's the scenario. Let's say you and your family are going on holiday and you're checking into a travel lodge or a couple of travel rooms by each other. You fire this up. It creates a hotspot that uses the same Wi-Fi name and SSID as you use at home. Okay, and it automatically creates an encrypted VPN tunnel back to your home network. So you just join to this device, and it's as if you were still connected to your home network. Okay. Now, why is this of interest? Because it means you only need to log this into the hotel Wi-Fi network once. You don't have to go around everybody's iPad and phone and goodness knows what else and get that joined, because they just join to this as if they were at home. Or if you're on a business trip and you're moving between offices with a couple of you, you only need to join this into the conference facilities or whatever. It does not have a 4G or a 5G modem in it. It's purely wired Wi-Fi client only, or Ethernet. If you have an Ethernet port, you can plug in to the Ethernet LAN. It does not have a battery in it. You power it off USB-C, but it does have USB-C pass through. It only takes 10 watts worst case, so it's not going to drain a battery pack. If you do really want to run it wirelessly, you can power it off your phone if you want to, off the USB-C socket. You basically you fire it up, you run the configuration, you say make it look like this network, and I set it up so that it automatically tunnels back to the to my home network. And my second phone I was carrying with me, the Samsung Fold 7, just connected to this. It didn't know I was in a hotel room in Las Vegas. Now, if you are a single person traveling and it's your laptop and you're au fait with VPN tunnels and logging onto Wi-Fi, and you've only got a laptop or an iPad or something to join, then it's not probably worth the effort. Yeah. But if you've got a number of people with you, especially a family, it's an absolutely killer product, because it means you don't have to go around and dig into everybody's laptop. The other thing to remember here is that, what's the other thing to remember here that was reminding myself of it? You don't need to have Ubiquiti Home Network. You can run this entirely by itself. You don't need a Ubiquiti account. It will do a WireGuard VPN back to your own router of your choice. So you can run this entirely standalone if you want to do so. Obviously, it's super easy to do it as part of a Unify network, but you can use this with whatever hardware and platform and router and VPNs that you wish to use. So that's trivially simple. It's Wi-Fi AC, so it's Wi-Fi 5 on here, but that's kind of fine when you consider that you're usually connecting through to a hotel Wi-Fi, and with the best one in the world, that ain't going to be terribly quick. So the speed there isn't a problem. It does 2.4 and it does 5 gigahertz. I think it's a cracking piece of equipment for a specific set of users. If you fit in that use case, this will be a godsend. If not, it's how much is it? It's 78 quid, 65 quid plus VAT. It's not exactly expensive.
Okay, one of the questions I've seen pop up on Discord, and the one I had was, how do you deal with logging into the hotel Wi-Fi in the first place? Was that thing doesn't come on the screen?
You run the Unify app on your phone, which Bluetooth connects to this, and you tell this, connect to this local hotel Wi-Fi, and if you've got like a pop-up window that comes up that you have to log in, then you do that through your phone screen, and that works fine.
It deals with those kind of captive screens that try and upsell you and whatever.
It's not a problem. The other thing to remember here, of course, is quite a few like paid-for services in some like Travelodgy type places. They might limit you to 2 devices or 3 devices. You're not limited here because this looks to the network like 1 device. And just for the sheer giggles, I did actually connect a couple of devices through this on the Virgin Atlantic flight over Greenland, and it worked fine. I mean, it was slow because satellite internet connections are slow until planes get more Starlink, but it does work. The question there, if you haven't got Unify at home, can you set up OpenVPN or WireGuard? Yes, it supports WireGuard as a client, so if you've got WireGuard on a server on some other piece of hardware, it's no problem at all. It will connect through.
Gentlemen, any other questions in the studio before we go to votes? Darren, you're muted.
Sorry. No, I was going to ask the VPN one, but I see Captain Kremen got there before me.
Okie doke. Well, thank you to Running Dak for his timely edition of the poll this week.
Running Dak asking how much it costs. It's £65 without VAT. It's £78 including VAT. It's out of stock. They sold out within about an hour and a half of it going on sale. If I'm going to give a negative on this, it shipped with effectively the first batch of which this is shipped with basically pre-release firmware, and it was a bit of a bitch to get it to upgrade. This will not be a problem moving forward, but for those of us who piled in early, I had to put it into recovery mode and use a command line and TFTP. But that's gonna be fixed.
Have you upgraded your Bleep Machine subscription, Darren?
What? Sorry?
Your Bleep Machine subscription, because it's going to get a good hammering this week on the edit.
Right.
Anyway, let's move along to votes. Lee, let's start with you.
I knew this was coming up, so I had a quick look at it because it's not what I expected. When I hear the phrase sort of travel router, I'm expecting something portable like that Netgear one that Darian used a few weeks ago that's got a SIM in it and stuff like that. That's what I've got in my mind. So I guess my main gripe about this is its name, but then again I can't think of what else they can call it because I can see exactly what it does. But as John says, it is a bit of a niche case. But if you are that sort of person that is into the Ubiquiti ecosystem, then this is a very nice little add-on. I suppose my only gripe
and
is
you
that
don't need to be on the Ubiquiti system. You can use this entirely standalone.
Yes. Yes, I concur. But obviously, if you are on the system, it will sort of tunnel back, do very nice things with your with the teleport system. But it's the Wi-Fi AC that slightly gripes me. But then again, it's only £79. So it is a bargain bucket version. I wonder if they might sort of eventually sort of do a slightly better one. But I can see uses for this. I can actually see how I could use it myself. So I'm going to shut up ranting and just say it's hot.
Darian.
Yeah, I mean, having Wi-Fi 5 in a product since 2026 sucks. And not having a SIM slot, frankly, for a mobile travel router sucks. But those two things, I'm sure, are what enable it to be, well, I won't say pocket money, but cheap enough that you could actually buy it as a fun thing to take with you on holiday. The main thing which has got me kind of thinking, all right, I quite like it, is the VPN support, because that's the one thing which would be a pain to set up. Otherwise, if you're in your hotel room and you want to just grab some stuff off the NAS at home or whatever, I'm not quite sure. I'm really I think I'm going to have to say it's hot, because I can actually see myself kind of caving in and buying it and using it, but it would be so much hotter if it had a little bit more modern technology in it. Nevertheless,
can I point out you can connect it to your phone in hotspot mode and use 5G to your heart's content if you wish to do that.
Okay, you're sort of starting to lose the neatness of the setup, but okay.
Well, no, not really, because it does what it does, and it's adding that capability on. It's a lot easier than using a phone hotspot and setting up VPNs on all of your clients.
So am I connecting from my phone over Wi-Fi to the Ubiquiti, the unified router, which is then connecting back to my phone. No, that can't be right. Well, then how do I get on the VPN?
Because your phone is going to do a 5G connection as normal. This connects to your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot.
But then I can't get to the VPN over it.
Yeah, well, no, you
From my
can't.
phone.
But okay, I give you that. But if the issue here is not having to deal with upset kids who are grumpy after a long drive, I think that's a bit of a win for me. If you need to have a 5G connection, and at 50 quid or whatever it is, you know,
It's getting cheaper and cheaper.
or 59 quid or whatever it was.
65 plus VAT.
65 plus VAT. Well, I'm sure if you buy a few of them, it'll be cheaper.
To take the Dragon's Den's phrase, I'm going to tell you where I am. And I think two good points have been made in the Discord studio, actually. And one for that scenario you say with a hotel with your kids, it's fine for in the room, but they want the Wi-Fi while they're by the pool or in the restaurants or whatever. So there are limited scenarios where that works. And the other point I think was made by Ian Nock is that if I'm traveling alone, by and large these days, I'm just using 4G or 5G on my phone. I'm not bothering with hotel Wi-Fi at all. So I think this is a very neat device. I'm going to say hot, but I think it's for the use cases are reasonably limited, I'd say. But John,
I did say it fits a set of uses right up the very beginning, and I think inside that use case, it's really very useful. It's not a solution to world hunger. But you know, people saying it should have a battery. Really, well, yeah, maybe, but you could run this off your phone at 10-watt power consumption. It's not a lot. Or run it off a USB battery pack or whatever. You know, power consumption is not a big deal here.
So I'll take it you're hot, John.
I think it's for what it's intended to do. It's hot. If you're a single person traveling, would I bother taking it with me? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're going with friends, or if you're traveling with family, then it's going to save you so much grief. You power this up, everybody connects to it, and you get to the bar quicker, which to me is a win.
Okay. And on that note, well, I should say the great unwashed are with you as well, John. 96% of the polled Discord members are giving it hot, just 4% against. So that's very much a big win for the, what's it called? Ubiquiti travel router, unified travel router. So well done again, Ubiquiti. I think they should be sponsoring this show by now. They should be sponsoring Lee's router by the sounds of it as well.
Yeah, I might have scuppered that earlier. Sorry.
Yeah. But thank you very much to everyone who joined us live. Thank you very much if you're listening later. We will see you again next week at Thursday at 1 o'clock. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, right. Got to go. Lots to do. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
I think we smashed it for the first one back.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
all very
absolutely.
smooth there. I didn't see a problem at all.
Sorry.
Cheers.
All right, see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.